Hello, I'm Ron Miscavige, and this is another episode of Story Time. And I have some great stories to tell you today. Very thought-provoking, so let's get right into it. Okay, so the first story takes place in the 70s, and I was living in England at the time, and this takes place in London, where I was out going around to various recording companies and trying to see which one of them would accept or take in some demonstrations we had done of the music I was doing with the idea of getting a recording contract with them. So I'm walking down the street, and all of a sudden I have this urge to call the studio. Now, the studio is where the songs were being mixed. In other words, we recorded 3 demos or demonstrations. They were mixing them. And don't forget, in those days, this is the 70s, there was no cell phones. So I had to go to a telephone booth. And when I say I had an urge, it stopped me in my tracks, and I went to the booth. I called the studio. I got my producer on the phone. He says, "Ronnie, thank God you called." I says, "What's up, Graham?" He says, "We just erased one of your tracks on the demo. You got to come in and re-record it." Needless to say, I went to the studio and re-recorded that track. Now, was that a coincidence, or is there something more that sometimes we get an urge or a compulsion or a feeling about, and we do that thing, and it turns out it was the right thing to do to call in? Let me go into another story. This takes place in Philadelphia, and this is in the dead of the winter. In Philadelphia, well, the weather can be very changeable. We had really cold days and a lot of snow, and then a couple days where it warmed up above freezing, so a lot of the snow that was laying on top of buildings or roofs started coming off, but then it froze overnight, so there was these huge icicles hanging from buildings and houses. So I'm walking, I think it was on Chestnut Street, and normally when I walk on a sidewalk, I don't walk next to the building. I'll walk, in the middle of the sidewalk. Not that that's a big deal, but I just feel there's a little more space to the right and the left. I had an urge to go right next to the building and walk right next to it. Now, this building that I'm walking next to is about 10 stories tall, and the roof comes out past the end of the building, and on that ledge up there were hanging icicles, 4 and 5 feet long. I moved to the inside, walked next to the building, and within moments I had this tremendous crash right in back of me, maybe 2 feet and out to my right. I look back, and there's this smashed icicle that had fallen from the roof. Had I not had the urge to walk next to it, that thing could have come down, hit me in the head, and crushed me. Well, crushed my skull and killed me. Coincidence? Or is there a little bit more to these feelings that sometimes we get? And let me give you another one, and then I'm gonna conclude this thing, and I'm gonna put it out for you. Now, there was an organization I belonged to in Philadelphia, and I was visiting a friend that day at it. And one of the things they did is they sold books in there. And this friend of mine, Jeff, said, "Ronnie, see that guy over there? His name is Charlie Kress. He comes in and he looks at the books, but he doesn't talk much, he doesn't say much. See if you can get in communication with him and see what he's about." Yeah, I says, "No problem." So I went over to Charlie, and I will tell you, within a minute or 2 minutes, I felt like I knew this guy my whole life. We just hit it off. I'm sure there's many of you out there who have met people like that. You meet him for the first time, and it's like, man, this guy's been a friend my whole life. So we're talking for a minute. I said, "Hey, Charlie, let's go get a coffee." So we ran around the corner to a McDonald's. We ordered coffees. The girl brings the coffees over. Charlie reaches in his pocket, pulls out his change. And I can see in his hand, he has a silver dollar. I reach in my pocket, and I carried a money clip in those days with the silver dollar on it. I didn't even look at the date, but I said to him, "Charlie, what's the date on that silver dollar?" He looked at it and he told me. I showed him mine, it was the same date. And these words just came out of my mouth. I said, "Charlie, the last time we were together in a prior lifetime, we made an agreement that the way we would know each other when we came back into life again, by carrying an unusual coin of the day with the same date on it. Who carries a silver dollar in their pocket? And what are the odds of you and another person meeting coincidentally in a building and then going to McDonald's, showing these coins, and they have the same date on it? Well, I'm going to tell you, is there more to life than just odds and coincidences? Or maybe is there something that people have talked about, the subconscious mind, about living before, about things like this happening, about calling somebody? You have an urge to call. You call your wife and they say, oh, I'm glad you called me. I wanted to tell you to do such and such. Little things like that. So, what I'd like to do is this. All of you out there who are subscribers, who watch this, and if you're not a subscriber, please do subscribe. Give me your thoughts on it. I'm sure there's many of you out there who have had similar things happen. But let's see. You watch this. I'm putting it out. Give your comments in the comment section, and let me hear what you have to say about it. And I can tell you, I'm going to take this up in a future story time, maybe the next one, at a little more length, and we'll discuss this. And I think it's going to be worth talking about, because my personal belief is that there's more to life than just the physical aspect of it. And as I say, I'm going to go into this in another story time. So for right now, I'm Ron Miscavige. This has been Story Time. And again, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and push the bell so when I do another one, you'll get notified. And if you go onto my website, therealronmiscavige.com, you can see the other things I do. And you can even contribute to this program if you'd like to by becoming a Patreon. So that's it for today. This has been Story Time. I'm Ron Miscavige, and let me hear your thoughts. See you on the next one. Bye-bye for now.